Benedict Arnold was born in Norwich, Connecticut in January 14th, 1741. Why can you not hold it there? It's like so menacing. He had a family that had a lot of money, but his father ended up drinking a lot, and so he got into a lot of debt. And so then Benedict Arnold had to, like, come back home and stop getting an education because, you know, his father was no use. So, time moves on. Benny Boy does things. He goes and trade on ships. He, works and joins militias and stuff, I think, at this point. I'm not sure. And then eventually, war breaks out. Not yet. I don't think... War doesn't break out yet. Because the shot heard around the world wasn't... Was it before or after Ticonderoga? It was before. So before that, war breaks out. And then Benedict Arnold was like, I have an idea. You know what will be really useful? If we go and capture a fort in upstate New York. Vermont. I'm not sure. Near Canada. Near the top. And it's Fort Ticonderoga. And so he gets permission from a council of elders from somewhere. And then they are like, we will then let you go. So he gets the rights to go up and capture the fort. And so he goes all the way up, but then he bumps into Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys. And so he then meets up with them, and they're already planning to capture Fort Ticonderoga. But he's like, no, I have legal right to capture Fort Ticonderoga, congressional approval. And so they're like, no, man, this is our territory. We get to capture the fort. But he's like, no, I have the law. So they end up compromising because Ethan Allen is a nice guy, I guess. And so you just hate watching me. This is not the actual thing. And then so they do that. And then they capture the fort together, and it's real quick, like, no one's there. There's, like, hardly any fighting at all. They just walk in, they're like, it's ours! Surrender the fort. And so the, like, few people in the fort are like, okay! And so then they take over the fort, and they take everything. It's wild, it's crazy. And then, you don't look like you enjoy this at all.
No, it's good.
Wild and it's crazy. And then, eventually... Benedict Arnold leaves the fort. Like, my job is done here, so he leaves. And then, I'm not sure when the Battle of Valcour Island happens after Quebec. So then, he's done with Ticonderoga. And then, eventually, he goes back down to where the rest of the fighting is happening. And he goes up and he meets George Washington. And he says, hey, I really think it would be a good idea if you let me go take over Quebec. Go to Quebec. And George Washington is like, don't know who this man is. He just walked into my house. But I've heard of him before from Fort Ticonderoga. He seems interesting. Also, he came up with a good plan. Like, he's a smart guy. So he was like, okay, cool. You can take some men and you can go trek up to Canada and go to Quebec and Montreal, I think. So he does that, and it's horrible, hard time going all the way up through the wilderness and stuff, all the way up to Quebec. But they eventually get there. Lots of people die. I don't know, like, the percent of people who are dead at the end, but, like, people die. Benedict Arnold is still alive. So, they get all the way up to Quebec. And then they also, I think, because they were going to Quebec and Montreal, but they don't go to Montreal because I think Schuyler is there? It might be Schuyler. There was some general who was like, I already got this, and I think it was Schuyler. So they go up, and so they fight, and they're trying to take over Quebec. Don't remember if they were successful, but I do know that Benedict Arnold gets shot in the leg. So he's like, ah! And then he's like, everyone, go onward! And so then his leg hurts for a long time, and I don't know if they're successful again. But then, so his leg hurts, and then eventually he leaves. I know! I'm just trying to say everything so that when I do it for real, I can do it. So his leg hurts, and he leaves, and then eventually he comes back down. And I think then he goes down to Fort Ticonderoga again, and whoever's in charge of stuff there it's not Gates. Gates isn't there. He might be there. Some dude is there, and they're like, hey, I think it is Gates. I think it's Horatio Gates. I think it's him. It could be. And they're like, hey, you know what you should do? You should boat for us. And he's like, yes, I do have experience in boating because I was a merchant. So he boats. And he has a boat called the Royal Savage. And so that's funny. Anyway, then there's a battle called the Battle of Valcour Island. Don't remember if they're successful or not. Again, don't remember who won this battle. But it happens. He boats well. And then after that's over, his leg is feeling better, I think, at that point. Definitely at that point. So then he's like, I'm going to go down even further south from where I am. Because, he likes spending all his time up there, but no one else is up there. Probably why no one likes him, because they never get to spend enough time with him. That's a lie. Even people who spend all the time with him. So, during this time, he does have a wife, but she dies around this point, I'm pretty sure. So he's like, oh, that's sad. So, that's sad. He deals with that, I guess. Does he, though? Does he ever deal with anything? Not really. So he deals with his wife being dead. And then he goes further south. And then he joins the normal troops. There's Horatio Gates and all that. And then the battle. We have the build-up to the battle of... No, that's before then. Before then. No, is it? Battle of Saratoga. When do they make people major generals? Before the Battle of Saratoga, they make 5 people major generals. Benedict Arnold is not one of them. Did they make people major generals before or after Battle of Saratoga? Do you know? They're like, we're gonna bring all these people up to be major general. Was that like after Saratoga? So he was like, I'm mad, or was it like before it? So he's like, but then he did Saratoga, and then he was like, now, really, you better. Like, do you?
I'm not sure.
Okay. So at some point, people are made major generals, and Benedict Arnold is not. And then he is part of Horatio Gates's army area, and Horatio Gates does not like him, and the more and more time they spend with each other, the more and more Horatio Gates is like, nope, can't spend any more time with me. And then eventually, he gets so annoyed with Benedict Arnold and doesn't want him around that he's like, you know what, we're gonna go battle, and you're not invited. So although before that there was the Battle of Freeman's Farm, and something else, and that went okay, or it didn't go okay, I don't remember. Everything's just like, stuff happened, inconclusive results were had, but then he's like, Benedict Arnold, we don't need you anymore. We're replacing you with someone else. We're gonna go fight. You're not allowed to leave your tent. But Benedict Arnold was like, not today. So he got on his horse. And he was like, liberty, freedom. And then he rode off. And then so he rides up. And like the battle had been going on for a while. And all the men were like, I don't want to fight anymore. So they weren't that happy. But then they saw Benedict Arnold charging in against orders. And they were like, fight! So they all fight, and it's really cool and intense. But then Benedict Arnold, he gets shot at, and then he falls off his horse, and the horse falls on his leg. He might get shot in the leg, or it might have just been the horse. I don't remember. His leg, the same leg from Quebec, gets injured, and he's like, ah! So that's unfortunate. But they win the battle, and then he has to get carried back on a stretcher and all that, and everyone's like, wowee, we won, that was cool. But then, since his leg hurts, they have to bring him to a hospital. So they bring him to a hospital, and in the meantime, Horatio Gates gets to send his letter to Congress about the results of the battle, and he fails to mention Benedict Arnold's participation in the battle. So Benedict Arnold does not get any recognition from Congress about basically helping them win that battle. Because Gates hates him for some reason. We'll never know. So then Benedict Arnold has to sit around waiting for his leg to not hurt. And in the meantime, you can like turn my camera off because my battery's gonna